Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you Carwin Walker and the WAFL Digest.
I like how you're making this sound like you're the only one who's going to be talking today.
I'm just going to be talking and Carwin's going to be listening to me.
So if you're listening to this is not a Wednesday. This is not a Wafflecast episode in the same sense of like what you would think a normal episode would be.
Yeah.
We've
this
been
is
waiting.
Abnormal.
This is abnormal.
I'm just kidding.
So typically with the what we call digest, or this is as a B-side, this is one situation or one episode where we get specific on one topic.
We get to take a concept and deep dive with it, and really give you a specific train of thought on theory, review, and applied knowledge of filmmaking and the industry. So,
without further ado,
Carwin, we are going to be covering Dark Fate and the Terminator franchise lineage and what led up to Dark Fate. You're going to give your review of it, and we're going to kind of come up with some talking points about Dark Fate. Why have we deserved such a gift? Why won't this gift leave us? And what the latest gift of this franchise has been given right before, just around the holiday season. We've been given a gift to be thankful.
He's lying out of his teeth.
And so,
how thankful are you?
So
show me some thanks
before I'm thankful for all. Before we get into the deeper theories of it and the deep dive it, give us your review of Dark Fate as it stands in the latest installment of this long legacy franchise that we've all come to love and adore.
Okay, so Terminator Dark Fate is the sixth installment of the Terminator films. And Terminator was started in 1984. I guess you can kind of call it James Cameron's directorial debut, but it was like the one that was kind of like he didn't get fired midway for. Because, like he got fired for...
he's been fired multiple times.
And then Rambo 2 as well, right? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Aliens and...
Yeah, he did Aliens. You know him from Aliens. You'll know him from the lineage of, like, True Lies and, obviously T2 as I think, like, the calling card of James Cameron. Avatar is probably the most current for this generation of film goers.
1997 or 1999 was Titanic. But anyways, it's just like Terminators has the basic idea of robot was sent from the future to make sure that someone was killed.
Yes.
As a young one.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't become like the leader of the resistance because...
time loops. So they would have to kill a specific character named John Connor to make sure that there is not a resistance led against the machine takeover of the world and the human race.
So in the 1984 film, it was in fact... it was Sarah Connor, which is his mom, played by Linda Hamilton. And then they meet up with another soldier of that time frame, Kyle Reese. Mm-hmm. Kyle Reese was played by Michael Biehn.
Yeah.
I keep mispronouncing the last name, though.
Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean to you. That would be great if it was... It's a race. It'd be great if it was just like...
Rowan Atkinson? Can we... There we go. There's a Terminator for you, Rowan Atkinson. So that leads to specific... So she defeats the Terminator that's sent back in time to vanquish her so that she cannot bear a child. Imagine it like the Christ story, except the three wise men were killer robots from a future.
You having fun yet?
You having fun? And so that leads into T2. She survives.
A big staple in the action franchise, as well as just like, I mean, not even just action franchise, but it's just like, it's the staple of like what a sequel people were kind of like, oh, like this is how you really do it.
Yeah,
this
you go bigger and bolder. Yeah, and more action, more Schwarzenegger, less dialogue from Schwarzenegger, but more of a presence. It turned the villain of the original movie into the anti-hero of the sequel. Edward Furlong is introduced. That's where that's where we meet John Connor as like the young version of himself. Think of it as like a John Connor Begins, if you will. And T2 is more like Lucius Fox. And then that's how we get introduced to the special effects extravaganza that was the Liquid Terminator, made out of what I think was the same liquid in the commercials for Capri Suns, if I am, liquid blue or whatever it was, whatever extreme energy drink you liked. Crystal Pepsi, I think, is what he was made out of at the time. And so that's it. That Terminator is defeated. John Connor actually makes a friend with the Terminator, which also kind of starts to cement. We see the underpinnings of cementing the leader of this uprising.
He also becomes a father figure to him, and it's like
that's where we get the
he self-sacrifices himself.
The thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the references and the beloved version of the Terminator that it's oddly enough currently, not oddly but conveniently because of marketing, is a character in Mortal Kombat right now. So there you go, and it makes all the references in it say fuck off to the other movies. It's all just going to be T2 references.
That's all the rest.
Yeah. So there's Terminator 3, which we will just say sucks, and then Salvation,
which sucks. I'm just.
I mean, Salvation sucks, but like at least it gave us something slightly different. It shot us into the future. I like how we just skipped past 3. There's like nothing plot wise. 3 doesn't really do anything plot wise except just kind of tell you.
It just tells you that Judgment Day is just gonna. It was delayed.
It was gonna come.
It was delayed.
Yeah. It was just a little late.
Yeah.
I got a different bus to the past. Salvation happens. We see John Connor as an adult leading a resistance. In which he gets injured, and then there's a meshing of T-1000 technology and him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. We actually finally got to see what this future could have been like at the cusp of the beginning of him becoming.
There was also Kyle Reese, and it was directed by Mick G.
Yeah, and so really, really inventive special effects, which I enjoyed. Practical shit, like set world records for that the gas station explosion thing too. Interesting in terms of I'll tell you this, it's fucking better than 3. Have you seen 3? It's terrible. Lady fucking inflates her tits to get out of a traffic ticket, but she's a Terminator? What the fuck ever, dude? A Terminator in T2 killed a man for talking on a phone while he was drinking milk. I'm waving my hands in the air like some sad old woman because it's just like, this is stupid shit. So Salvation it gives us a glimpse into the future. We see John Connor be John Connor. Christian Bale. It's where we get the infamous fucking whatever, mate. I don't know what he does. He just gets mad. That rant. Remember that rant?
The Christian Bale rant. Yeah. Well, that's because Mick G's a hack.
Well, it was the lighting guy who was the hack, which was great because the guy kept stepping in front of the lens.
That was because that was his first. That was his first job.
Yeah, and so he's like, "Hey man, it's my first day." He's like, "I don't give a shit."
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't have taken the job to begin with. It's like all these signs were right in front of you of like, just letting you know. I know you were in Batman Begins before this. And you did American Psycho, but just letting you know, it's going to be from the guy who made Charlie's Angels and Charlie's Angels 2 Full Throttle, and it's going to have like a first-time cinematographer. How do you feel about that?
It's fine. I still say that like it's better than T3, so that's fine.
Oh, no, I agree with you that. And then it's like, then you get Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show.
Which is null and void. Don't worry about that. It only lasted a couple of seasons. It was on Fox, and like everything on Fox, it gets to season 2, and then they act like it never existed. Much like
I think it went up to 4.
Did it really?
Yeah.
God dang.
At least 3.
And so we have, and then there's Genesis, which had the guy from that fucking Apes movie with the smashed in face, who was supposed to be scary but looked more like just a pissed off
Jason
substitute
Clarke.
teacher. There you go, Jason Clarke. He looked like a mad substitute teacher, like when like their substitute teacher gets mad and he's like, "Hey, will you just fucking sit down?" And you don't really take him seriously because you're like, "You don't threaten me. You're not gonna be here tomorrow, and your life's sad."
Do you tell that to all this?
You're just like a transient teacher. You're like a hobo of the educational system.
No respect for.
You know how many substitute teachers live on Skid Row now? So that's terrible. Genesis. Everyone synonymously.
It tried. What we're getting at, folks, is that like every installment after T2
has successively gotten worse.
And has tried to be T3. So we are now in the 6th movie of this franchise, and now James Cameron, beloved creator of this franchise,
has accepted the moniker that we've all just felt over the years of these franchise installments, and we're now here at Terminator Dark Fate, which at this point might start to tie the Police Academy movies for the amount of sequels in the franchise.
I mean, there's definitely worse ones.
There might be some room in the Guinness Book of World Records. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, they could be close.
Yeah. So, Carwin, give us your review of. Give us just like a hard review of what Dark Fate.
I
offers
wish.
in this
See,
installment.
I just. Oh well, my thing is that like out of all the attempts, it has the nice intentions, but the direction and some of the story elements. They don't fit. Fucking period. I'm sorry. There's just no other way of getting around it.
Yeah.
They don't fit. They don't fucking fit.
Okay, so let's start with story elements. How do those not fit? Because story elements relate to director, but we'll get into that after that.
So the story picks up, I believe it was 1998, like a few years after T2.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, like no fate but what we make. Just kidding. Spoilers here, guys, because John Connor gets straight up just murdered.
Yeah.
They were just like, well, fuck it.
Yeah.
Bop, bop, and everybody.
They did like the CG appropriate version of what they did to Henry Cavill in Justice League.
Oh, you mean like shave him?
Yeah, they were just like, we're just gonna get rid of you.
We're just gonna shave Edward. We're
just gonna get rid of you in like 30 seconds.
But the effects were not bad though. Of
okay.
Like aging him. So I'm like, they made Edward Furlong into a teenager.
Which is crazy because if you've seen Edward Furlong now, he looks like
a teenager. I'm just kidding.
No, he looks like the sister from Roseanne.
I'm kidding.
Carmen just missed. I said he looked like the sister from Roseanne.
I don't know why I'm thinking of the daughter. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've seen.
You're thinking of the girl that was like a guest star on The Simpsons.
I'm thinking of this person who was on Atypical. I'm sorry. I forgot. It's been
a minute. So what happens, the setup here is John Connor gets offed.
Yes.
By a Terminator.
And that Terminator just casually gets away with it.
Now, which Terminator is this?
Now, this is the T-800 that is Arnold.
Okay.
But now, because of John's been killed, the timeline is now, altered yet again.
Yeah.
This is our...
Well, here's the thing. Is the timeline altered, or is it more in line with the beginning of T2?
So, it's altered because there's no Skynet.
Okay.
There's no John Connor.
Right.
There's a resistance... But this introduces a new timeline because
it's led by Common from Salvation, right?
No, it's not.
Oh, damn!
It's not. It's not Summer Glau, everybody's favorite Terminator from Sarah Connor Chronicles. It's not Christina Loken. It's
everyone's
not
favorite Terminator from
T3. It's not.
Which is so funny because I thought that the blonde chick in the trailer when the trailers first premiered, I was like, "Don't fucking tell me! Don't you dare! Don't you do it!"
Nope.
Okay.
It's not that either. It won't be.
Okay.
Can't be.
It's not gonna.
It's not gonna be.
According to the box office results, it won't be anymore.
No, this is it. This was the final coffin.
Yeah.
The final nail in the coffin. I don't know why I'm saying final coffin as if there's multiple dead bodies.
There's multiple dead bodies.
You're right. You know what? You're absolutely right. Final coffin is like the most appropriate.
Sarah Connor Chronicles has 4 small coffins.
Sarah Connor Chronicles.
It's like Sarah Connor Chronicles. It's kind of mumbled.
Okay. So but the thing is that this starts a whole new timeline.
Okay.
Somebody gets sent back. She is a soldier of a new resistance.
Okay.
They have a new AI called Legion.
Okay.
To deal with. So it's not Skynet. Still the same situation happens. Humanity tried to blow up Legion in this case.
Okay.
And then nuclear winter happens. Well, nuclear holocaust or whatever. I don't know why nuclear winter was the first thing that came to my mind.
I always thought, what is the definition of holocaust?
I mean, so many people get murdered. Like the genocide of an entire species.
Oh, okay.
Gone. But the thing is that there's at least like some surviving members, and those members have been leading up to a point of like sending back like coordinates to Sarah Connor so she can take out further Terminators, because you find out that there have just been multiple Terminators sent back anyways.
That she's destroyed.
Over the years from 1998 leading up to 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just like multiple.
Well, which then throws into question, like, where the fuck was she during T3? If that's the case, but whatever.
But Marco, this is a legacy sequel. T3 doesn't exist anymore. Because this starts off a few years after T2.
Okay.
So after that happens, new timeline.
We're here.
New timeline.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You're just like, fuck it, man. It's less than a ticket.
I'm trying to save everybody the headache. We're gonna take it through the motions. We're gonna give you the audio book of Dark Fates.
But my thing is that the death of John Connor, though, that's something that I don't think anybody could have. I mean, it's like a death of a central character I can get behind.
But do you think it was only to spark people to tell other people you have to see it because they killed John Connor?
No, because they tried to do that for Genesis of like, what if you made John Connor the Terminator? And that one.
Gotcha.
And it's like, that didn't work either.
Yeah.
So why, like, if you thought turning John Connor into the Terminator in Genesis was going to work, why would you think turning him dead, like, I don't know why turning him dead would be like a complete metamorphosis, but shooting him straight up as a child, like...
Yeah, that seems pretty...
Yeah,
pretty troubling.
Yeah, like
okay.
Then that goes into the direction of this, and it's like Tim Miller, who's the director of Deadpool and the producer for such hit classics as Sonic the Hedgehog 2020, because that's gonna be fantastic, right?
I don't.
You can't wait. My body's tingling.
I don't think he likes the industry very much, and now he's just stuck in it.
Well, hey. He had a great visual effects company.
He was doing the fucking cinematics for Halo. Then one day they were like, hey, you want to make Deadpool? And he was like, whatever.
I get overpaid, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Deadpool was great.
But he didn't get overpaid, though.
No, but Subversion might be his strong suit. I don't think it fits to be like the franchise director. He's not one of the Russo brothers.
Now, Marco, and this is my thing that I ask you, like thematically, like what is Terminator to you about? Like, what's it about to you?
Terminator to me, to be honest, and this has been always my viewpoint since when we first met, we would have conversations about it, where I feel like Terminator over time, maybe its story has been blown out of proportion, but its importance to set piece cinema is it's revelatory, right? So it's like the first one is great for being this like sci-fi horror mashup. The first of its generation, meaning not the first of its kind, but like if you look at like The Fly, if you look at just the time period, there was a lot of that happening. If you look at RoboCop, it's like this mashup of like social commentary, sci-fi, blah blah blah, whatever. You have the Terminator, which is like sci-fi horror. A lot of these, The Thing, right, where it's like this very alien-ish thing is now like presented in this body snatcher type shit. Mm-hmm. And
or even Halloween for that matter, where it's like it's this target that's going after this one specific person,
but even sets up like a psychological base with its introduction of how the murderer sees a victim and its relationship in its mind to its prey, technically this hunter. So then First Terminator, I think, is great, especially for what it is. It's got like a they live thing for me, where it's like it's specific. It could be a one and done, and you could take it for what it is by itself. It doesn't really have to exist in anything else.
Like Halloween, for that matter. Yeah.
Right. So the second one for me is this great like love letter to adventure movies set in the Terminator world, but that's kind of James Cameron's strong suit, but also I think the definitive weakness of James Cameron, where it's like you look at his other movies that we love. So like True Lies is another one where it's like super big, and where I think he definitely perfected like the balance of humor, action, character, and like arc, like scale and ramping up the scale to an end where it's like you defeated the bad guy with the punchline, which was like firing him off of a rocket. You know what I mean? Which is like, yeah, it wasn't a big fist fight. It was like super simple. And you almost kind of gave this climax to the daughter. You know, he did something kind of amazing. I mean, he rides a horse to a building. So it becomes that thing where he set up the mark for the Michael Bays of the world and all this other shit. So you have to really respect it.
Yeah, where it's like they obviously took a lot more time with like flash photography because Michael Bay came from an advertising standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's like movies are like a big 600-foot T-shirt.
That's exactly what it is. And I think James Cameron mastered how to create a T-shirt that had enough story at a time to like hold itself together. But the Terminator story, and we've had these conversations.
It's a comfortable T-shirt. It's not just like a T-shirt that you just got a photo at the mall and you slapped on.
Right, or a T-shirt that you think might offend somebody. It's like this very safe, but like boundary pushing enough.
It doesn't feel like it's weighted on you either.
So I think like
a T-shirt.
But hey, it's like a T-shirt. And but I think the story aspect of a lot of James Cameron stuff, specifically Terminator with its time loop thing, becomes redundancy kind of like in a very scientific way, where when you start to really talk about time loops, it kind of untangles itself a little bit. Where it's like, I guess where you could say people kind of can, theorize about, relativity and gravity, where it becomes this thing where it's like, okay, there's a theory here, but it's still theory. Like, we don't have the solid proof of, we just know that this phone is more dense than the shit around it, so it's going to fall. But we don't know the exact, like how, there's that thing where like what weighs more, like a case full of fucking feathers or a bowling ball.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I like about the first one is that it gives, like, it moves the plot in the sense that, like, it's an impending doom and it's nihilistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, shit still has to happen. So it's like when it ends, it's like she's driving in Mexico.
You got it. Right.
Dark clouds.
Exactly.
She's moving towards that dark future. That's what that is.
Dark fates.
Which is why I don't know why they chose Dark Fate, because that just sounds stupid. Instead of Dark Future or whatever, Fight the Future. Maybe X-Files took it already. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, with T2, they closed the loop to where Skynet doesn't have to happen. And no fate but what we make.
In the most logical way they could. Because I think
it's optimistic.
Because if you really want to deep dive into where it goes, it's where I always have this theory where, like, salvation is kind of like, it's not the perfect sequel, obviously, but it's the way you would have to go to get over the hump of constantly going back to, like, this point in time. We have to go there. It's like, well, you've kind of done that as best as you can. It's where I really respect Salvation having the scale of, like, the action, the set piece, and, like, that, at least that grungier world. Does that make sense? Because I don't really want to keep going back to, like, suburban LA for this thing that keeps happening. Like, we've seen it a million times already.
But what if I told you they go to Mexico instead?
Right. And that's the other thing too, but it's just like, do we have to keep going back to this thing where one keeps getting sent back? Wow. One keeps getting sent back. Wow. It's the beautiful, like, setup of the sci-fi concept, but it also kind of envelops the weaknesses of a time loop theory. Does that make sense? But like you said, two definitely just gives you, like, the, okay, that's it.
Yeah, and then that's the thing is, like, I look back at, like, the alternate ending to that one, and it's like, it's 20-something, yada, yada, yada. John Connor is now a senator, and it's like, and Linda Hamilton's, like, at the playground that was referenced in it, and she was just like, Michael Jackson's still black, and, Judgment Day hasn't happened.
Holy shit.
That's what she says.
I know.
And it's like, and it's just like, oh, okay, so, like, John Connor, instead of the dark timeline of, like, the machines and resistance, and
the darkness here is that
he still ended up doing something in the world out there of, like,
but not the
wanting
resistance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way they try to they set this whole thing up in this story, but at the same time, it's like, for the Dark Fate concept, is the Dark Fate concept more of the idea that, okay, John Connor is dead, but it's at the hands of the Arnold Terminator in this. But then there's, story-wise to you, does that not make any sense when the entire set of the promo run for the movie is some other shit over here? Where, in my mind, I feel like the central story for this should obviously be, if we're going to do legacy flicks, and you want to hand these movies off and pass the torch, which is what all these companies kind of keep trying to do with these franchises, becomes this thing where, like, why not then have a send-off for Sarah Connor? I want to say Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Sarah Bearclaw.
Sarah Bearclaw Chronicles. Bob's Loblaw. To where, okay, if at the hands of an Arnold Terminator, we'll just put it that way, is how Edward Furlong gets killed, John Connor. And in this movie, what, surprise, surprise, he has a family.
Yeah.
Robot fucked a woman and then
no. I mean, it's more of like he took, like, another woman in and she had a kid and that's his stepson.
Right.
But he has no purpose, so it's like he became self-aware.
Right.
Without, like, being connected to Skynet, he got to be
right
to see things
after finishing his command, which was to kill her son. It's almost like he became free.
Yeah.
Right. So that happens, and See, that's that set up right there for anyone listening. When you're writing and you're coming up with the concept, your concept should be this: how do we use the characters we've established in the world we've established, add in an aspect that makes maybe your anti-hero or villain, quote unquote, either reasonable, understandable, or someone you would actually sympathize with. Now, let's go back to another current example. Joker hits a nerve with people because it set up someone you completely sympathized with, or at least understood their reasoning, right? Now, Arnold Terminator has a family. He, though, in the past, right, let's go time-wise, has killed John Connor. Sarah Connor is alive. Her only mission in life is to find that one Terminator. Now you've turned the human into a Terminator, technically, and you've turned the Terminator into a human. Had Sarah Connor...
Having fun yet?
There you go. See, now someone goes, where are the Mexicans at?
Well,
they're in Mexico.
somebody's got to go to Texas first.
But here's where I'm saying that is obviously the most interesting story for your legacy flick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have Sarah Connor. Find out where he's at. Okay? Possibly, if you want to, if not kill his human family, quote unquote, maim them, injure them, hold them hostage. Now you have a battle of wits between two aged characters that are beloved, right? Terminator versus a human, except you've swapped the roles. The human is now almost unstoppable. Like Sarah Connor has been doing this so long. She's like this franchise's version of fucking Liam Neeson in The Gray, where it's like she's just ready for anything kind of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would also kind of, oddly enough, fit into the theme song of what the trailers did with like the whole I'm going hunting shit. That's all she's been doing this entire time. So now Schwarzenegger has to do something interesting against someone who's hunting him. Then in the interim, you can fit in lady who suspiciously looks a lot like the blonde lady from T3, and then you can fit in the T1000 they introduced in the fucking trailer, and other Mexican girl. Like, you can have those things pass off, or what you could have done, if in my mind, just as a writer, you go, okay, well, have an understanding between Sarah and the T800. So now you have this concept of I was under a command. I became self-aware after it happened, right? Because at some point, in a timeline, that same Terminator sacrificed himself for John. So you have story concepts you can build on. When you ignore that shit, you do damage to the legacy concept of the sequel. So have an understanding. Do the South Park Matt and Trey concept. This happens, then this happens, but then this happens. Well, who's to say that John Connor could have been the only person in a resistance?
And
you see what I'm saying?
And that's the idea that they try to go with by making Danny the Mexican girl.
You see, and the flip could have been the family that the T800 shacks up with. He knows is the one who can also become another resistance leader. Like, there are things you can do, and where Sarah would have to go, oh, fuck, I almost literally killed our chance at a future, just like the Terminator had to realize in T2. See how, like, you can write a story in fucking minutes?
Now, Marco, if I tell you this of how this all came together.
Okay.
So, 2017, Skydance, they got together and they were like, Miller.
Skynet.
Miller was going to direct a new film. They were like, it's going to come out for 2019. And it's going to have almost $200 million. And it's going to be split between Paramount, Fox, and Skydance. And
Skynet.
Chinese-based, like,
okay.
Tencent Pictures joined the project as a financier so they can handle 10%.
I know where this is going. Okay.
So then Miller. Now that's why I'm saying like the direction of this was kind of poor.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it starts off. So it's like
Okay.
Miller, before he hired any screenwriter of like, oh man, like how do we even do this?
Yeah.
He actually consulted a group of novelists on how to reinvent the franchise, because Miller has stated in interviews that he's not a fan. He doesn't
At
like,
all?
No, like he's like, I don't like the Terminator. I don't like the idea of it. It's like I don't like the chosen one aspect. I don't like the omnipresent quality of any of these characters.
Yeah,
that sounds stupid to me. And apparently the novelists that were chosen were Joe Abercrombie, Neil Asher, Greg Bear, Warren Ellis, Neil Stevenson, and someone had suggested the idea already of like a half human, half machine, which had already been used for Salvation, so you're already recycling some elements.
Yeah.
And supposedly the team was they're all done. They didn't write this.
Yeah.
None of them.
Because you said Goyer at one point was even
Yes.
attached, right? David Goyer.
So it was Goyer, Justin Rhodes, Josh Friedman.
Oof.
Josh Friedman's the guy who was behind the Sarah Connor Chronicles, mind you.
Of course.
And they were just like Cameron supposedly sat down and watched all the Terminators after his films, and it was determined that the storylines of the later films were too complex to even
Too complex.
they're like, this is too much, guys.
T3 had no story. Crazy.
Yeah. So this was envisioned as a new trilogy. Once again, Goyer wrote a draft of the film that was ultimately called Dark Fate. So he left.
So they just kept the fucking title.
Yeah,
name.
they kept the title.
Fuck it.
He left. Goyer was gone.
That's how you keep your writer credit.
Billy Ray got to come back on.
Billy Ray Cyrus?
No, Billy Ray is in the guy who wrote like Overlord, Volcano, Earth 2.
Volcano, you
yes,
say?
Yes.
Another classic from the 90s. Tommy Lee Jones outran lava. Speaking of which, real quick, we'll save it for the Wafflecast. Did you know an old man died falling into a lava tube in his backyard in Hawaii? Like he was just doing some shit and he just went whoosh. Yeah.
What?
They found him sticking like halfway out like,
oh my God.
yeah, he's gone.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, Dark Fate.
So then after that, Cameron had a list of action scenes that for no particular film whatsoever, that he wanted to shoot over the years. He gave the list to Miller. Now, I'm going to tell you that some of this action is actually the better parts of this movie.
Yeah, which I didn't probably doubt 100%. Yeah, okay.
And then that Cameron said that the script needed improvement, so he supposedly made the changes himself.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Supposedly, the decision to kill John came from Cameron, but but the one who says that he takes the most credit for it
Is Miller.
is Miller.
You think Miller did some convincing? He's like, we're going to kill John, but here's why. Then he just filibustered for like days. He did like a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington shit.
Mm-hmm. And Miller, his decision to kill John, he said that it was not controversial amongst him and other filmmakers. Because, he felt that Sarah Connor was the crux of it all. And she was best portrayed as like an unhappy character. Like just being miserable.
Dude. See, okay. See, knowing that, you have to at least like, I'm going to probably get a bunch of shit for this, but like, this is where I think Mick G, in terms of a fan of the franchise, really knew that like the linchpin was that John like legacy of the franchise. Like there's no resistance if there's no John.
Mm-hmm.
And then to further cement like John's curiosity of the half human, half Terminator in Salvation is because of his history with the T-800.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like he might not be human, but it's different. Something that he recognizes when the T-800 started becoming self-aware as John taught him things. So, it, like, that makes, That sounds like a shit show. Why would you do so? He just handed like a list of action scenes he wanted.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome to the Dark Fate. Ba-dum, bum, ba-dum.
So I ask you this. Are creatives who stumble upon zeitgeist pop culture concepts and art, do they live, in this case, is this like living long enough to see yourself become the villain?
Oh, you mean with the idea that Cameron becomes the final end-all be-all of everything?
Because when he's like, these are my ideas, I give them to you to give, like, you make Tim Miller Moses in this situation, and he's like, I've had all these ideas for years. And then Tim Miller's like, I will give them to the masses. James Cameron? And then no one wants it. Everyone's like, no.
No more.
No thanks. Bye.
I'm done.
Do you think at that point he becomes a little more insecure about like his like cockiness of his Avatar sequels and his future decisions?
I think he knew why he didn't have. I mean, like if you just had like a bunch, every filmmaker's got like a bunch of scenes that they're like, oh man, I've always kind of wanted to do this, but I don't have a story around this. And instead of Cameron taking the time to be like, maybe I can make a story around this, he was like, you know what? Fuck that. These are just going to be ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And then realized that like, oh, Miller's over here running out of steam because he's just got like a bunch of story elements that are kind of like
slightly
interesting, more infuriating than anything else.
Yeah.
Because you realized
they're half-assed.
Yeah. Because you're locked into a date. This has to come out.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck with it. How do I make this work?
Yeah.
It's like Jason Bourne. Not talking about the Jason Bourne franchise. I'm just talking about the fifth specific installment.
Yeah.
After you've closed the shit out, and then you try to bring in a new guy, and that shit didn't work. So then you make a TV show, and then that didn't work. Because God knows if Treadstone's going to be really out there. Then you're like, well, what if we do like 3 set pieces that are really good, but everything leading up to that beforehand is kind of like meh, and then you just end on extreme ways.
Yeah, that's not good at all, and that's not how you build a legacy sequel.
No, and that's the problem is that like this from the get-go was like not a good idea, but Paramount and Skydance Productions were very much like, let's do it anyways.
See, do you think that every company...
Let's do it.
And it's so funny because companies fought for the Terminator franchise a couple of years back.
Well, they fought for the IP.
Yeah.
Because there was a new law that came out that said that like original properties after a certain time frame become the owners, the rights go back to the guy who wrote it.
Yeah.
Which is Cameron and Gail Ann Hurd.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's also a thing that I feel like that was missing.
Was her. Yeah.
And it's like, I get that Cameron was very much like, I'm the greatest. I'm the guy who lifts the shit up.
Yeah.
Gail Ann Hurd, she gets a screen credit, but she ain't do shit. She bought the property from me for $1, which is true.
Yes, that is true.
She produced it. She was good friends, and she was like, I am a friend. I'm here to produce.
Do you have $1?
Do you have $1?
I'll take that $1.
Take the $1. That's a friendship thing.
Yeah.
And
then they sold it for billions.
Yeah. And then 2 came out, and that worked.
Yeah.
And then Cameron somehow managed to just end up being in a room with all of his ex-wives. Which is like, well, he was married to Lena Hamilton at one point.
Yeah.
Catherine Bigelow.
Mm-hmm.
Gail Ann Hurd, I'm pretty sure.
He smashed here and there.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's 3.
Yeah, why? That's the only way you give it away for $1.
That's why I'm like, you know what? Jimmy boy.
You think that was the whole joke about like I'd buy that for $1?
I wish.
Paul Verhoeven's an asshole though. He might have known.
But then again, it's like, in order for this to fully work, you have to be in a room with multiple of your exes.
I think Paul Verhoeven knew. I think he was like, you know what? I'm gonna make RoboCop something completely just
it's
original.
Like my
and
idea of James Cameron.
And then I'm gonna go. I'd buy that for $1 and be like, I'm gonna make something that lives longer than you, fucker. RoboCop is a classic forever, untouchable. Like, there's not even a sequel that got better. Like with Terminator, the sequel Like T2 was like, oh fuck you. But like the original Criterion, Blu-ray, 4K, fuck you. Like multiple versions. Like T1, over here, bargain bin.
Yeah.
Like that's the one he probably makes the most money on, because it's like his and his alone completely. And they're like, yo, can we do 4K, whatever? And no one wants that.
Right.
No one even remembers how that ends. Like, anyone knows lava and thumbs up. Fuck out of here with that whole Pistons shit. And she's crawling through it. Bye.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing that cracks me up about this is that, like, there was a big element here that was missing. Like, James Cameron thought he could come back, but then not direct these scenes.
I feel like the bigger element that's missing out of all these, it's the heart of the concept of mother-son, and
which is
and
what Gale
self-discovery of awareness.
Which is what Gale brought to the table.
Right. So
with Cameron.
So you have this idea where, like, Sarah Connor loses a son, okay? But through that loss is then almost programming herself to be so one-track minded that she might forget about grooming someone to be a leader of a resistance. Because right now she might not be aware, but she's the only one.
She's the only one that's aware of these multiple timelines that are happening.
So what happens when you croak?
That's it. Dies with you.
Thus the beauty of The Dark Knight Rises. Thus the beauty of Batman having a Robin. Thus the beauty of there being a Nightwing.
But
you know what I mean?
They try to make Danny into this new resistance leader, and then the whole idea of, like, her being a surrogate mother to the because they track down the little child version of the Terminator that comes back. And you're just kind of like, well, why would you do that? It's like, well, to make sure that she doesn't die and become, like, you know, half robot.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, well, you're just taking elements and you're just mixing some shit up, and then
it's gonna get to the point where, like, we're gonna have to reboot this.
Yeah, like we're at this level now.
Yeah.
Like every installment's just gonna have to be a reboot.
El Terminator.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun. And I just hear, like, maracas.
Arriba, hey! Oh man.
Yes, and that's my
the
thing
Speedy
about
1000.
Yeah, I wish.
Ándale, hey!
My timbro.
The best part be, like, you have Terminator and he's trying to get, like, across the wall, but he can't.
Just jumps over.
But it's, like, electrified and there's alligators and shit on it. They finished it.
There's a part of me that's just kind of like this. I don't know if maybe James Cameron was just kind of like, this will be the fucking final nail in that coffin.
Can I tell you one thing?
No one will ever ask me to do this shit ever again.
Really thinking about the Avatar movies and the whole, like, Fern Gully concept of it and, like, that whole thingamajig, I think I think the goal was, and this is a real thing. We've had these discussions on here about Oscar bait and appealing to minorities, and now we're in the age where we just do it to the point where our dicks get soft.
Speaking of, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. There's a whole conversation we got about that, but it's this concept of they went. Here's the obvious way. Like I just explained, how you could write this obvious legacy sequel, and then use that to perpetuate the next passing of the torch, a la Bumblebee, how they even went back in time and still was able to pass the fucking torch. That's what happens when you just think, like, cognitively about story. And
but this is what happens when you take 5 novelists in a room to try to chunk out an idea.
Well, not even just
that. And then
that.
you try to get, like, guys who came from this previously to do it.
But then you try to wrap it in a tortilla.
Yes.
To think, like, you know who loves Terminator? Mexicans. What?
Well, but the only thing that, and it's like the only thing that I can say that the Mexico element still is, like, in play.
Cheap labor.
Because they were in the first one and Sarah was in the second one in Mexico.
No, I know. I'm just.
That's not, like, that's my only connective tissue to that.
But that doesn't mean anything.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only. But it's reaching. You know, like, what I mean?
Why not Canadian Terminators?
LOA.
They could blend in forever. They could hide in the snow. They could be in the woods. Like,
I just imagine just a Terminator, just like skeleton, like T-800, just like getting up.
Exactly.
Just like,
and here's my thing:
snow, da 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 da,
crushing a bear skull.
Yeah.
Or just roadkill.
A moose.
An antler.
Yeah.
But then get hit by a truck.
But then there's like some Terminators that have like moose antlers for some strange reason, and antlers and stuff.
Yeah, I'll be back, eh?
Yeah.
Edward Furlong's Canadian. Oof, bad idea. Don't ever do that.
Let's do it.
That's our Terminator sequel is just more Canadian bacon than anything. We're like Strange Brew.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be Strange Brew.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fuck it. That's where it's going. But like my thing is, okay. So my thing is, here's how you even take that Mexican concept. But if the idea is you want to appeal to this, use this minority group as a story point, that's fine, and that's okay. But you have to think about why it would make sense. Maybe even in like, okay, you look at the state of Mexico as it exists now. There's ways you could take kids, turn them into Terminators. There's a way that you could find loopholes or sneak what. Literally, this isn't even meant to be a joke. But if you find a time loop where you're going to dial them in to come in at the border wall while they're coming in with a mass of people where it's not going to get noticed, right? Like, things are so under surveillance in this country that I think one Google car is going to find a Terminator popping up out of the fucking middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't think that flies. So find an excuse to have someone get literally smuggled in, where you can dump a mass of them off at a border. Like the technology, Skynet should be more Legion, whatever version, should be more aware of those things on how to slide them into the populace. Does that make sense? Where like in the 80s, you could sneak one in behind a liquor store because guess what?
What in behind the liquor store?
Like a Terminator pops up in an alley.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because there's not fucking CCTV all over. Like, there's no Big Brother shit at that point in our history. So, like, there you go. But now it's like you'd have to find a clever way to do it. If that was the case, like we talked about before this, like Logan in 3 minutes gave you the exact reason why she was speaking Spanish. Mm-hmm. Because they were doing it in other countries where it was unregulated. Deadpool 2 even also kind of alluded to some of those things as well. So it's like, okay, you gave me a story point.
But now it's got to run with it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Miller was very much like, I don't like any of these ideas. But let's do it anyway.
Yeah, more like, I
don't like it.
Yeah, I'm down. Sounds terrible. Let's go.
That's the worst possible way that you can go about executing anything.
Yeah, and it feels like from the trailers to the release itself and to the audience reception, and the box office reception, people were just,
They're like, you know what? And it's like, well,
another one of these fucking movies.
It's like the set pieces, some of them are good. It's just that like even the leading up to them is kind of like, well, this belongs into a better movie. It's like if James, you know what? And that's why I was kind of like, when I read about that, the whole like James Cameron just had a list of action set pieces that he could kind of already do and just gave them to Miller. I'm like, you know what? If I would actually just pay good money
to read those scenes,
not even that, just for Cameron to just shoot them and then just slap them on a compilation disc.
That's my.
And then just give them out to people.
Why wouldn't he just go? Why at that point, if you're going to be that involved, why not just make the fucking movie yourself?
But that's the thing, though.
But do you think it's more of like, I don't think these scenes are good enough for me to waste my time making? These are just ideas I had.
These are ideas I had that were good in concept, in execution. But when do I have the time in between Avatar 3, 4,
and Titanic
5?
Research?
And like, there's no Humvees in Titanic. Where am I gonna get a Humvee for Titanic?
Yeah, how do I pioneer digital underwater technology if I don't make Avatar 2, guys? What do you want me to do? Make Terminator movies? Oh, like some bitch.
Could I make another? What was it? The Abyss.
James Cameron's also the man who was like, Wonder Woman's boring. I don't even like that movie.
Well, that's also because it's like, honestly, I don't know if he feels scared or not because of the superhero trend. But like, if Cameron came out like full on swinging,
he almost made Spider-Man.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but that was Cameron like late. That was like Calco, like, you know.
Yeah, that was after.
Like Canon Group Cameron.
Yeah.
Which Canon Group Canon is like Canon Group Cameron.
Sarah Connor Chronicles.
If
you have a speech impediment, this is the episode to listen to.
Yeah, like that's like like he's willing to show some Spider-Man butt
Yeah.
of like back then.
Yeah. I mean, but
Like,
then
I'm
again,
gonna have sex with somebody on the top of the New York Tower, and it's gonna be awesome.
let's be honest. He was like, I'm going to make a Spider-Man movie. And then Sam Raimi made one. And then after that, he was like, superhero movies are fucking stupid.
And then he ran away like an little eighth grader.
Yeah. And then he made a CG cartoon movie. And then he was like, I love CG cartoon movies.
It was the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Yeah. And then it wasn't. And then Avengers happened. And that's
But
the
he
next
congratulated.
highest grossing.
He congratulated Avengers, though.
Yeah, because it's his rule book. It's like you make it thin enough to just poke a hole at later.
But the thing is that like he didn't have to do it with a re-release. Endgame had to have like a re-release of like unfinished footage.
Yeah.
Now, when was the last time you saw Cameron do that?
Didn't they do a T2 like re-release?
But that was in 4K.
Yeah, that's right.
That was 4K and 3D. That was actually done with like the utmost respect.
Yeah.
Like when you're going,
sat there and they got it like actually recertified to be 4K.
Yeah,
remastered.
so it's like that's what I get. Like I understand that part, that technical quality to it, while having a light story. I understand that. That's fine. It's my thing is like people kind of act like they didn't get their minds and dicks blown for like 30 minutes in some of the Avatar set pieces. Because I'm pretty sure, like, I only saw the movie once, but people saw that shit like a trillion times.
Yeah, I think it was just because it was the flair at the time.
They were like, oh, it might be Fern Gully, but like Fern Gully with 30 minutes
in it.
Like fucking set pieces and shit.
Fern Gully for the anime crowd.
And like panthers that were connected to trees and
Sex Panther
wild
Indians.
Shit. And like... blue people,
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Panzer Dragoon. Remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that game. Just kidding. Okay, I'll ask you this. If they make more of these, because they're going to try to at least one more time to really see if it's a dud or not.
Oh, no.
If you need to take risks with the franchise, who would you give this to at this point?
Cameron. That's it. That's the only man who gets this at this point. Cameron.
I think that's the only man that deserves to do this, and then to also deserve to be like, God, this was a failure. I should stop this.
You don't. Also, the thing is, you don't hear him complain about how terrible it's doing at the box office. He's not complaining.
No, because he got his residual.
He's fine.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, I dare you to make one. But then I'd be like, but if you come back.
Take all the blame.
You have to take all the blame, but you also have to have Gale with you.
Yeah. Because I would just I would rather, if it not have a fresh approach, like a real fresh approach, I would rather no more Terminators. Because we get it. We get it. The future is now, and make of it what you will.
Yeah, deal with it, old man. But I'm telling you now, like, Gale has to come back. If there was someone who I could possibly see, like, just to be like, throw some more sticks in the fire, if you will. The only other person I could really see this going to is Catherine Bigelow, which is another Cameron's ex-wife. I'm just saying, throw that out there, see what happens.
She'd be like, suck my dick. She would just hang up.
It's like, hold on, let me be right back. Click.
She just leaves it off the hook.
But then she'd be like, I'll do it.
I'm bored.
I was like, you know what? K9 the Widowmaker wasn't enough for me. K19 the Widowmaker. There we go.
Widowmaker.
K19 the Widowmaker. I'd be like, you know what?
You know what's fucking crazy?
What?
So he had Robert Rodriguez for like a good couple of years.
Well, they made Alita, and it's like, well, this is the that was the.
But that's
best.
what I'm saying. Do you think that he talked to Robert Rodriguez, and Robert Rodriguez was like, you want me to do what? And then Robert Rodriguez was like, can we make this? Like, do you think he looked?
Do you think there was an initial conversation of like, I'd like you to do Terminator?
You look at like the creative openness of what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather take Alita than like get stuck in like the can you turn this around? It's like taking over like the fucking like think of the worst football team. It's like it's literally
Detroit Lions.
Poor Detroit. It's literally like a 90s sports kids movie concept where like the coach has to take this shit. It's like the Little Giants. Mm-hmm. It's literally like you have to be that coach that goes, I have to take a whole bunch of shit and win the fucking division championship with this. Are you nuts? I'm not Walter Matthau. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't the bad news
This
bears.
is bad news bears. I was going to say that.
This is billions of dollars worth of shit behind this, and I have like,
And then you bet on us?
yeah, like,
What's wrong with you?
no, give me Alita, right? Like,
Also
let me be
same,
safe.
And also at the same time too, it's like Cameron also hadn't had like Miller at least. I mean, with only one movie under his belt, I mean, he did. It was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time for about a couple years.
Not anymore.
I know, not anymore, but I'm just saying for a couple of
It
years.
goes back to Todd Phillips again.
I know.
Flicking his nipples, $1 billion, eat my ass.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
too, what I'm saying is that it just goes back to the idea that this is Cameron's child. It's his baby.
And he's murdered it. He shot it
With
twice.
Gail and Hurd, and they both need to come back. Like, they need to shake hands and be like,
Do you think that
I'm sorry that I didn't lick your butt enough. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that my performance in bed was not of optimal quality.
optimal quality? What is he, IT?
I'm sorry. Let's move forward and have the best movie experience ever.
I don't want to fuck you, but we can make a movie together.
Let's make a movie together.
I feel like
I mean, because Gail Ann Hurd is a stubborn lady from what people say.
yeah.
Like, I think there was like a anniversary screening of the first Terminator movie, and she like walked out immediately over like popcorn. Like, the popcorn was fucking stale, and she was like, fuck this, and got up and left, and everybody got to see this happen.
That's great. I wouldn't make a movie with that lady. That's probably why he won't touch it again.
But at the same time, too, I'm just like,
Yeah,
but
she
he
might
asked,
just have that standard, that
he
level of
asked the
standard.
ex-wife of Linda Hamilton to do it, though. And I mean, like, hey, like, in between having Catherine Bigelow and having Hamilton, some shit was overlapping right there.
Yeah,
son.
but Catherine Bigelow also did some shit talking when she won her Oscar, by the way.
Yeah, but Catherine Bigelow's not attached in this universe. It's Hamilton, though. Like, imagine, like, hey, I know I cheated on my wife with you. You had an affair.
Well, that's why she's not going to
But,
come
like,
back
Megan-
for this one. You just made her the protagonist again.
But you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
though.
Gail Ann Hurd ain't coming back. She's like,
But
suck my dick.
but she did that with Catherine Bigelow. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
but like,
yeah.
also with Gail and her, their romantics were flaring. But I'm just saying, though.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you want a good one, this is what you have to do.
I don't know, man. Because if Avatar 2 is complete dog shit, then we're in a world where James Cameron has lost his fucking mind.
But what if it's not, though?
It's gonna be.
But what if it isn't?
Because have you watched Avatar again?
I
not good.
haven't. No, I haven't seen it in like a few years.
There you go. But when's the last time you watched a Batman movie from Christopher Nolan? Or Interstellar?
Interstellar. I'll be honest. Interstellar's kind of been a minute.
Yeah.
Because I was also kind of peed off by the little IMAX frame they gave me. So I'm a little
The
petty.
best part is we bought them at the same time. We bought them at the same time. My frame has like this picture of Mars and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Carmen gets his and it's just black. And he goes, "What's this?" I go, "That's space."
Fuck space.
I
I was petty.
Like,
there, I
"Fuck
said it, Marco.
space."
I'm petty. I'm a little petty.
Hey, man.
I lay in my bed at night and I'm just like,
Look at that
pettiness.
frame and like my room is as dark as my IMAX frame.
I have to take the frame and light it up against like with my
see, like,
cell
a
phone
star.
light and upside down it so I can at least get it projected of like, what is this?
Mine
frame
is
of
like this
space.
beautiful image of Mars.
The frame of space, you fuck.
It's just like this planet, and if you look at it, it's like, wow, you can see all the grain.
Literal-
Carwin's was black.
petty. I'm petty.
It's all good.
I'm petty as fuck.
I don't
about
know.
it.
I think if in my mind, I understand where you're coming from, and I think for me, if it wasn't going to be him, it would obviously have to just be like,
Because
I say
I
go
don't-
batshit crazy with it. I
like
would
a
give it.
camp or a...
No, I would even give it to like a Robert Rodriguez. I
But
think.
see,
if,
now this is my thing about that. It's like, what if that backfires just as... The chances of that backfiring are just as bad as Avatar 2 failing. So you're be fucking up Rodriguez's career. If this another Cameron like Terminator movie just goes
look,
bad...
man, if Spy Kids whatever the fuck sequel didn't, and he still got Alita, he's fine. Like,
But that was his highest grossing film that he's ever made.
what, Alita?
Yeah.
That's fine. He also pioneered the entire like Sin City
do it
thing.
yourself.
Yeah, like he's got his own studio. Like he's fine. Like
I just wouldn't want to ruin that career. I'd be like, you know what? If Cameron makes a really bad movie, it balances itself out.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it's like, who else would you want to like? I wouldn't want to like Neil Blomkamp. Like, hey man, I know you made.
But
District
if he makes
9.
a really bad movie and it's a Terminator movie, I think it's a kick in the dick harder than he probably realized.
Ooh.
Like if it's just a James Cameron film and it made $4 at the box office and Avatar made $1.5 billion or whatever, like Avatar. I think the only reason why he didn't do it too. Avatar 2 is so expensive at this point. The studio would probably be like, dude, Terminator sucks. And you made that, stop it with this Avatar shit. You see what I'm saying? And I think Avatar is taking so long, not because of the technology, but honestly, I think it's because he's trying scenes, and if they're not working, he is like, he's going to be like the test screening guru at the end of the fucking sequels. You know what I mean? He's going to find a way for it to be palatable enough that on your first watch, you go, yes.
No, and now this is also the big thing too.
Cinematic Chinese food. There we go.
Ooh, so much MSG.
Where you're hungry again after 30 minutes, but while you're eating it, you're like, dim sum.
That's too fair. Oh, that's fair. But I think my thing it would also be is because it's like now this is riding on Disney now at this point.
Yeah,
like they're like.
Disney's actually kind of kicked his ass, by the way, and they've taken no-name directors and turned them into James Camerons, like the Russo brothers.
Arrested Development, me. I was about to say me, myself, and Dupree, but
technically, like nobodies of the film industry would like they are the James Camerons of now.
Right?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's like he's got some fire breathing down his neck.
But
with
all
this
Disney has
shit.
to do is just turn that Marvel switch off for like 2 years, because it's Endgame now. Endgame's out. Like. Robert Downey Jr. didn't want an Oscar campaign, so for Best Actor. So what did Disney do? They were like, "Oh, we'll put him underneath Best Supporting Actor."
You're getting an Oscar, fucker. Yeah, you need an Oscar because Joker's about to sweep some shit. So and then now you know we got to be there.
Yeah, all Disney has to do is just turn off the Disney switch for like 2 years. Everybody will be on the Disney Plus app. Avatar will be there. $2.9 billion worldwide.
You know what's going to be fucked up though? All Disney really has to do if they want to meddle with that is wait for like the time that Avatar comes out, and then one day they're gonna go, guess who comes back to the Avengers franchise? Robert Downey Jr. And then Avatar makes $14 because 4-year-olds don't give a fuck about a blue Indian person. They're just gonna be like, I want to see a man in a metal suit, and I want to see Captain America, and that's all it's gonna be. All it's gonna take is it. One day they're going to say, hey, Mark Ruffalo's fucking Hulk arm's better. He's about to go off into space and listen to more Led Zeppelin, and Taika Waititi's done playing Hitler, and now he's going to come back and do this shit. James Cameron, I think he's realizing he's got an uphill battle that, like, literally think about this. If Avatar 2 came out the same day that Joker came out, Joker still makes more money. And you want to know why? Because it feeds into adults' minds, and it's fucking relevant.
If you give me, he's fiending for that relevancy.
Exactly. And I think that's why like he's like, this thing takes place underwater. I think he thought the water crisis was going to be like still a talking point, and it's not. So I'm waiting for like a blue Indian with orange hair.
I just want to see. I'm just like, yo, like, what is this Avatar 2?
I want to see all the crazy Jar Jar Binks shit he's going to try to get off in Avatar 2 and then go, this man is done. I don't know. Because it's just like when you look back at Avatar, it looks a little stupid. Like there's a man.
You can say the same thing with all of the MCU, anyways. Like that's an argument.
Yeah, that looks but like Avatar looks stupid.
So does most of the MCU.
So
like, you can't even use that argument anymore. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it could just be the fact is that Disney was like, fuck it. Well, we don't have the MCU right now. We'll just turn on the fucking Avatar money maker.
But look how brainwashed the MCU has someone to release something against competition. If you release another Spider-Man movie,
yes,
like Far From Home is terrible.
Exactly.
And how much money did it make?
It became the highest grossing Spider-Man movie of all time.
Okay.
Did it earn it though? No, it didn't.
No. But if you just throw one, if you just like chuck it,
You'll get Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which didn't make anything at all.
But if you release Into the Spider-Verse 2, when Avatar comes out, guess what happens?
Spider-Verse will probably take it.
Yeah. And it deserves it because of how Aquaman fucked Spider-Man over. And not to say that like they're both great, but Aquaman killed December. And that's another thing too. If like there is some petty thing that any of these studios want to do, well, let's say all of a sudden, if you really want to hit nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, the James Wan Mortal Kombat movie might be done around the time Avatar could be done. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, James Cameron's looking at another swift kick in the dick. Like when Avatar got released, there was nothing around it. And they did that on purpose. Because what the fuck else were you going to watch? They did the same thing with the fucking Transformers sequels.
They were in July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Well, there was... the first one had Die Hard 4.
Oh, yeah. Severe competition.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, I mean, if I had a choice between
Jai
Die
Courtney
Hard,
was like
hot
shit.
Well, that's 5.
Oh, my bad. Oh,
yeah.
It was the Kevin Smith, Justin Long one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you had a choice between Die Hard 4 and 5, what you watching?
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like, yeah, Bruce Willis might have been punching out a jet, but it's like, you know what?
He did punch a jet.
I'll fucking take that over fucking being in Russia, though.
Yeah.
With Jai Courtney.
See, why can't Avatar just be like that guy from Avatar gets out of a wheelchair and plugs into a machine and becomes Bruce Willis?
Who knows?
That'd be sick.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm gonna wait to see what happens with this Avatar 2 business. Because maybe, and you know, you might be right. Like, it might be that fact is like Cameron, just like anybody else, is part of a dying breed. And if there's no relevancy, there's no hope for popcorn entertainment anymore. And then we'll get movies like Undercover Brother 2.
I guess. But my thing is, like, we'll get more movies like Joker, which I'm fine with. Like, I want more movies that make me think about shit, not just go like, wow, look at the water effects. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, too, is I think the obvious sign of all this is Joker's remain number 1 while...
It's like number 4 now.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in terms of gross.
Oh no! I mean, it's at 900 million now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it becomes this thing where it's like, when something is as legacy-ish can't even crack what it should, which is at least 500 million, at least maybe, right? Like, in the face of people kind of waking up to being tired of sequels, that's the other thing I think that Avatar kind of faces too. Is the one thing that the Marvel movies can rely on is this kind of rotating cast and slight differences in what you're going to expect. Avatar just might be typical James Cameron bullshit that's in Avatar.
That's also true, but
it's the first time he's come back to do a sequel to his own movie
since Aliens and Terminator 2.
Mm-hmm. But he didn't work on Alien.
Nobody, but it's like, well, he still helmed a sequel that was not his own.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, like, it's still considered a sequel to something.
Yeah, but he hasn't had to take responsibility to, like, he hasn't had to do the Michael Bay thing where, like, I did Transformers, and now I have to see where this goes. Because the scope of it was like, yikes, that was a hit, and it was based off some fucking toys. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's why I'm kind of just like, I'm curious to see how that plays out.
What if it turns into his, like, Indiana Jones sequel problem that Spielberg has? Where it's like, I invented this and I suck at it.
But then you get Last Crusade and you're kind of like, most people of Indiana Jones, when they get to Last Crusade, they're kind of like, all is forgiven.
Yeah, but then the Shia LaBeouf one happens.
Yeah, so it's like, shit will just go up and down and he'll just be like everybody else.
That sucks.
That's why I'm kind of like, it sucks, but at the same time too, I'm like, well,
how come James Cameron just can't make like a movie where people talk? What's wrong with him?
Well, I mean, wasn't that part of Titanic? Wasn't there talking in the documentaries he made?
Him talking, but like he wasn't sitting a camera down. And if you look at every time someone's talking in Titanic, the camera won't stop moving.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like having a conversation. It's just like it's just like fucking. It's like disorienting. Like, am I sinking? What the fuck is happening?
So great.
And then like when the ship starts crashing and cracking, then the camera stops moving.
You have to see it, believe it.
The love story event of the year.
That's why I'm also kind of just like, it remains to be seen because we don't know
Your
how
heart will go on. I get it. You can't let go.
I'll never let go. I'll never let go.
No,
I can't fit on the door. No, but I'm just saying because it's like Quinn's had his ups and he had his downs. I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was very much just kind of like an end of an era, and that's what he wanted to go out on. Shit, if that was his last movie, I'd still be like,
that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. Because, like, it buttons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, and if Cameron was like, all right, after I do Avatar 2 and 3, I'm done. That's it. No, after that, I'm done.
Yeah.
No True Lies 2, no Abyss 2. None of all these sequels that everybody wanted to think I would make
the action-packed sequel to Abyss.
Water effects.
I mastered him in Avatar 2.
Yeah, like, he's like...
Tim Miller's going to direct Abyss 2.
And it'll just be called The Abysses.
Mexicans to fight water. That's it.
Abyss.
El Abyss.
Marco, you got any other closing notes?
If you want to see Dark Fate, if you don't,
do you want to see Dark Fate?
I actually do. Even though we've talked, even like I think these things warrant a look. Because if that's the case, we'd be hypocrites because we're going to start doing commentaries on like, things people wouldn't necessarily jump to watch. But, like, sometimes that's the best shit. Like, we watch...
Sometimes I'm just waiting for Marco to go down those elegant steps like the Joker, and it's like...
Oh, I have a story for the Wafflecast, I'll save it, but I had a story before today.
We'll see. Guess we'll see you guys next week.
All right, man. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.